What if I told you the UK has one of the most generous pension tax relief system in the world, and most people don't even realize it? Hello everyone, and welcome to Am I Too Late? I am Naho, a late starter helping other late starters build financial and digital confidence. In the last episode, we looked at the three main types of pensions: state, workplace, and personal, and how your money is not just being saved but invested for your future self. We didn't get into the math, but here's the key idea. Retirement isn't really an age, it's a number. The point where work becomes optional because you build enough to live life on your terms. Today, we're breaking down the money behind that number, how pensions grow, how tax relief really works, and why understanding it matters, especially if you're starting later. Before we go any further, when I say your pension in this episode, I'm talking about the ones you can actively pay into or top up. Things like your workplace pension, personal pension, or AVCs, additional voluntary contributions. These are the types that build up a pot in your name, what's called a defined contribution pension or a DC pension, where what you get out depends on what you pay in and how those investments perform over time. And if you are self-employed or don't have access to a workplace scheme, you can open what's called a SIP, a self-invested personal pension. It works just like any other defined contribution pensions, but gives you more control over how your money is invested. You can choose your own funds, adjust contribution whenever you like, and still get the same tax relief as everyone else. Think of it as your DIY pension. It's flexible, powerful, and especially useful if your income varies or you've got several income streams. So, DC pensions, that's where all the money and the math really come in. Because these are the pensions you can control, adjust, and grow. I've talked a few times about what's inside your pension, the mix of shares, bonds, and funds that make your money work. Now let's break that down a bit more. Shares are a tiny slice of companies. When those companies grow, your slice grows too. That's what's driven long-term returns over time. Bonds are a bit different. They are like IOUs. You're lending money to governments or big companies in exchange for interest. Bonds don't usually grow as fast as shares, but they've been steadier. And funds are ready-made baskets of investments, often called index funds. They track large groups of companies like the S&P 500 in the US or a global fund that covers the whole world. That's what helps smooth out the ups and downs. Most pensions hold global index funds such as the S&P 500, which has turned about 9 to 10% a year on average before inflation. That means £1,000 left alone for 10 years could grow to about £2,600. If you paid in £200 a month for 10 years, it would build roughly £39,000. Keep going 20 years and it could reach £140,000. And after 30 years, it would be nearly £400,000. All from steady investing, not timing the market. Now, compare that with cash. If you leave £1,000 in the bank at roughly 2% interest, it would grow to around £1,800 after 30 years. But the cost of living will probably have doubled by then. Think of £1,000 holiday today. Flight, hotel, and a few nice dinners. In 30 years, the same trip could cost just over £2,000. So that £1,800 in your savings account wouldn't actually cover it. But if you'd invested that money instead, it could have grown to around £15,000. Enough for many holidays, not just one. And don't even think about keeping it under your mattress. You might as well give it to charity. At least you're helping others and would get the good karma and a tax reduction for it. Or perhaps you could buy gold with that cash instead. And to be fair, gold's done really well lately. It's actually risen almost 50% in the last 12 months. Like, that's crazy. Well more than the S&P 500, which rose about 15 to 17% last year. That's still pretty good. Of course, you can buy physical gold, but you'd need to think about fees and where to store it safely. Or you can buy a gold ETF, exchange traded funds, which just tracks the gold price without needing to keep any bars under your mattress. But no one knows what future trends will be. These things move in cycles. Sometimes gold shines, sometimes markets do. What we do know is that historically, investing in companies has built far more long-term growth because businesses keep creating value while gold simply stores it. Of course, inflation still affects invested money too. What really matters is how much more it grows compared with the rising cost of living. That's why investing isn't gambling. It's how you protect and grow your money's buying power so it keeps working for you instead of quietly falling behind. And just to be clear, I'm talking about long-term investing, not day trading or chasing quick wins. Trading is short-term and unpredictable. Investing is slower, steadier, letting your money grow quietly in the background while you live your life. Okay, now let's look at how tax relief actually works. It's one of the biggest advantages of having a pension. I know tax relief doesn't sound thrilling, but it's quietly one of the most generous perks in personal finance. When you pay into a pension, the government lets you do it before paying tax on that bit of income. There are two main ways this happens. First, if you're in a workplace pension, you might be under what's called the net pay arrangement. That means your contribution is taken from your salary before tax. The relief happens automatically. Second, if you're in a scheme like Nest or the People's Pension, it's called relief at source. You pay in after tax, but the provider adds 20% basic rate relief later. Now, if you are a higher rate taxpayer, that's anyone earning over roughly £50,000, you can actually claim another 20% relief on top of that. You do this by either filing a tax return or asking HMRC to adjust your tax code. And yes, that extra bit comes back to your bank account, not into the pension, unless you choose to reinvest it. And here's what that looks like in real numbers. Let's say you pay £4,000 a year into your pension. The government adds £1,000 in basic rate tax relief, which makes it £5,000 in your pension pot. If you are a higher rate taxpayer, you can also claim another £1,000 back from HMRC. That means your £5,000 pension boost only cost you £3,000 in real terms. No market risk, no waiting for years. For once, the system actually works in your favor. We all pay tax, and for good reason. It funds the services and systems we all rely on. But what's clever about pension tax relief is that it lets you keep a bit of the tax you'd normally pay and put it towards your own future. It's not about avoiding tax. It's about using the rules as they're meant to work. It's a way to build security for tomorrow while still doing your part for society today. Here's another smart move. Pensions can help you stay below the higher rate tax threshold. Let's say you earn £60,000. The bit above £50,000 gets taxed at 40%, unless you put that chunk, about £9,700, into your pension. Do that and you've just saved almost £4,000 in tax instantly. You don't have to bring your income all the way down below the threshold just to make a point. But knowing that anything you cut back on could give you a 40% boost in your pension, that's a powerful bit of knowledge to keep in mind. And if you're in your 40s or 50s, this matters even more. You've got less time for compounding to do its work, so things like tax relief can give you a faster lift. It's about working smarter, not just longer. And if you're coming to this later, that's okay. Once you understand how the math works, you realize it's never too late to make progress. Even with 10 or 15 years to go, steady contribution and those tax boosts can move the dial far more than most people expect. It's not about catching up overnight. It's about making every pound work harder from here. Okay, so here's your homework, and it's a simple one. Log into your pension portal or check your payslip and find out whether your pension uses net pay or relief at source. It usually says on your statement or in the FAQs. And if you earn over £50,000, check whether you've claimed your full higher rate tax relief, either through your tax code or self-assessment form. You don't need to change anything yet. Just get familiar with how your pension's set up and how tax relief works for you. Awareness is the first step to taking control. This episode isn't about memorizing thresholds or tax bands. It's about realizing that pensions are dull, complicated, and a bit of a headache until you see the good side. Then they start to look more like a best-kept secret. They might never be exciting, but once you understand how they work, you see why they deserve a bit more attention. And if you've ever wondered what happens to the old pensions you've left behind, how much more you can add, or how to plan what comes next, that's exactly what we'll cover next time. If this series is helping you, please follow and share the podcast. It helps more late starters discover it. You can also join me on Instagram at Am I Too Late Podcast for small wins, reminders, and behind-the-scenes updates. Thanks for listening, and remember, you are not too late. You're here now. That's what matters. Let's start today. See you next time. Here's the disclaimer. Everything I share here comes from personal experience and learning. This podcast is for information only and isn't financial advice. Please do your own research and talk to a professional financial advisor to find what's right for you.